Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, where you is. It's Monday again, and welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. I'm Tom Connors. With me is the boss man, Andre.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm good. I hope everyone out there is as well. How are you, Tom?
Doing the best I can, and I will be right back. I apologize.
And in the meantime, let me introduce our special guest of today, Mr. Paul Gerrard. How's it going?
Hello guys. All good here.
Excellent. And to those that do not know him, Paul Gerrard is, of course, a filmmaker in his own right, as well as a conceptual artist. And you worked on Hollywood blockbusters such as Wrath of the Titans, Battleground Los Angeles, and even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as Hellboy 2. Now, those are some pretty awesome titles. What can you tell me about those? How did you get started in the industry and get to work on such high-end projects?
Well, I started off in games, like way back in games. I was making work for Ubisoft, and in my spare time, I was doing like gallery work, for well, I would call it kind of I don't know, esoteric sci-fi type stuff. I had it in some gallery in New York, and the director of Battle LA saw this tiny little picture, like what he saw. He rang me up and he said, I like what you're doing. Would you be interested in doing some concept art for a movie? I'd never done movies before. I never even contemplated doing movies before, but I did it for this Battle of Los Angeles. I ended up doing it for probably 6 months, and that was it. It's spiraled from there. Really, never really stopped.
Awesome. What kind of games did you work on? Like any titles that we might recognize before you ventured into movies?
Oh God, I did the Driver games, like Driver 2, 3, 4, 5. God knows how many.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did those, and I did some kid stuff. It was just it was a job really. So I was always doing that, and then before work and after work, do my own artwork. That was always the goal. To make that switch to something else. I just didn't know what.
Absolutely.
I thought it was going to be gallery work. I thought gallery work was kind of like what it was heading. But no, I got changed to movies and never looked back.
Well, awesome. That's very cool. But then you got to do artwork for some very big Hollywood features. How was that transition from game development to conceptual art in Hollywood?
I think the techniques that I use are very similar. In games, you do what's called T pages, texture pages. So you do photorealistic textures for your world building. And I employ the same techniques to concept art, because I'm not, what you call a classic concept artist. I don't draw and paint in the same way as everybody else. My work is photorealistic, and it's done like lightning fast, like a sketch, almost like a like 1980s matte painting. It was quite similar, and I think doing that helped me create my own kind of style. Really, it was that kind of transition. And the director said he'd never seen anything as detailed as that, and I was thinking, well, it didn't take that long, but yeah, it was just the techniques I employed.
Yeah, and we have some samples of your work on screen right now, courtesy of Tom, and we're getting slightly ahead of ourselves here, but since it's on the screen, what we have here are your reimaginings of the characters from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah,
which is pretty awesome. Like here. We have some awesome one. There's Buzz-Off, that's really cool. We have Man-at-Arms that has never looked more warrior-like, and Skeletor that looks absolutely terrifying. If we scroll down more, yeah, look at that. Here we basically have like the exposed face of the skull, but this, of course, answers the questions, which is age-old for He-Man fans. What about Skeletor's neck? Is it fleshy, or is he basically a floating skull on top of a body? The 2002 cartoon answered that, and you have another answer here, which is pretty awesome as well. But what can you tell us about this art right here? What motivated it?
Okay, what happened was I found out that obviously the studios were going to make a Master of the Universe movie. So I started doing a couple of illustrations, thinking, right, I'll send it to them and I'll see what they think. So I did maybe 4 or 5 different illustrations, and I tried everybody. Every director I knew of, I sent them this package and said, can you get it to the studio? I did this for months, no reply, just ignored. So in the end, I thought, also I'm going too far. Just as I kind of gave up, I think David Goyer released some images, I think, of his version. So I thought, right, I've missed the boat. I'll carry on and I'll release it myself and do it that way. So that's what I did. These were meant to be a kind of my version and a pitch to the studio, which never got in the right hands. So I just released them and they just went totally viral. So I kept going. I kept doing some more just for myself from then on.
Well, that's absolutely awesome. And I will say that the studio missed out. But of course, we know a little bit about what happens behind the scenes at the studio and who was in charge of the project. So it's no wonder that it wasn't picked up. I have to say, I love this one of King Hiss. That is amazing. That is a nightmare-inducing image right there.
You can imagine all the parts moving, couldn't you? All the around.
Yeah. That is a nightmare coming to life. It's right funny
because they were kind of, they hit all the websites as flagged as monsters of the universe, but they were never meant to be evil. They were just meant to be reimagined, because these characters are kind of the warmongers, aren't they? The harbingers, the really brutal characters. So we're just trying to take it a step further.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoy this because of course, King Hiss, he's like a ripoff of the Conan stories. That's where you have the Snake Man and everything with Thulsa Doom and also the man snakes. And so
I went really nice mad during the lockdown. I mean, behind me there's probably about 50 He-Man figures that I went a bit crazy during lockdown. Just
awesome. Really also enjoy this one here, Man of Faces. That's a really cool take on it. It almost reminds me a little bit of those things from the Transformers with 5 faces, with like similar concepts. That's also a really, really cool design. We have some comments from the chat, so I'm going to refresh that. We have a couple of super chats just to hear what you guys have to say. Greetings to everyone in the chat as well. Thank you for joining us. Coolx81, he sent us $5 from Australia, saying, again, too early for me to be awake. Have some support anyway. I suspect we're going to need all the sanity reinforcement we can get. Yes, I hope that these pictures will help you keep your sanity. So that's awesome. And Alex Acerra sent us $9.99, saying, as a horror fan, I love indie work. Overlord is better than any Wolfenstein HW will ever be. Necrotonic is a real Doom movie. Dark Souls is the headhunter. Indie will always too corporate. Well, I think he means that they won't go corporate, but And Mexican Iron Man sent us $20 saying, huge fan of Gerrard's work, especially Battle LA. No better way to start the day than with Midnight's Edge. Genuine talent and brilliance. Rivals artwork is awesome. It is indeed. And we're going to get to Rivals momentarily. Black Phoenix asks, are these designs from the Netflix show? No, we should be so lucky. No, as Paul said, these were your designs that you sent as a pitch to Sony back when they were handing the movie. Which is no longer quite the case. Stephen Ernest wonders, did you do any for She-Ra?
I didn't. No, I did. I did Hordak, I think. I did Hordak for the book, but no She-Ra.
Oh, you have
Not yet.
to you have to make that available to us because Hordak is simply
I'll
badass.
dig it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like part of the book I did was you become a rival. So I think Hodak was partly somebody else's face who contributed to the Kickstarter as well. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, and Read by Nature also wondered, does he have King Hiss? Yeah, we saw King Hiss and the Snake Man or Hordak. The answer is yes to all of them, and we've already seen, and hopefully we'll have that. And Fat Steven Seagal beat up a Pedro. Oh yeah, that is well deserved.
Right.
Pedro has got it coming. Pedro is the character in The Mandalorian. The actor who plays him. He's made himself very unpopular with the fans as of late. And he sent us $2 Canadian saying, wishing good health and success to everyone here. Absolutely. And Prophet of Doom says Hordak would be cool. Yeah, I think many here are excited to see that. Yeah. Also in the chat, we have a link for the pictures that you just saw on screen if you want to go and check those out yourself. So either copy the link or just search for Concept Art World Masters of the Universe, and you should go right there. That's
they should be able to just go by the link.
Yeah, exactly. Illustrating that Pedro isn't too popular right now, Naughty Monkey O'Wrath says, "Ooh, Pedro can eat a backpack of dicks." Yeah, there you go.
He should do well to remember that he's not Baby Yoda. He's very replaceable.
Yeah, he is indeed. But this is not the focus for this conversation, because obviously you are a fan of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Tell us a little bit about that. And I also see some Golden Axe in the background there.
Yeah, I think that whole genre for me is that kind of sci-fi medieval crossover. I'll call it probably, neo-medieval cyberpunk. Fascinating. I've been obsessed with that for decades. So yeah, I think it all ties in. The He-Man stuff and the love of Golden Axe as well. I go myself and Mike Clark, who's a screenwriter and my co-director on the last film we did. We're working on a Golden Axe treatment as we speak. So hopefully in a few months we might be ready and we might get that out into the world. So yeah, all comes together.
So what you're doing on Golden Axe, that's basically similar to what you were doing with the He-Man art we just saw. That's you developing a pitch to send into to Sega, it would be in this case.
Yeah, but this time there will be a full treatment with this one. Whereas the He-Man it was more of a pitch for my skills as a concept artist. For this, it's to actually direct the movie itself.
Yeah, okay, very cool. Well, we obviously wish you good luck with that. Now, one thing that many would have noticed with your He-Man artwork or He-Man alternate takes there is that they are very different from the Filmation in that Filmation is very family friendly, whereas this was absolutely more adult, a little bit more Lovecraftian, a little bit more Giger-like, a little bit Clive Barker's Hellraiser even. And that brings us to something else that I wanted to talk about, because a few years back there was this I don't want to use the word fan film. I'd rather call it what should we call it? Like a pitch film?
It was, it was a pitch film. Yeah.
It was a 2-minute short called Hellraiser Origins, which went viral in the horror community, and it certainly caught Hellraiser fans by surprise and made them shut their eyes wide open, for lack of a better term. What can you tell us about Hellraiser Origins? How did that come about, and why did it ultimately not happen? But let's begin with how that came about.
Okay. I worked with Alex Perez on his ill-fated Paradise Lost film. I did it for about a year. I was so into, probably in the region of 600 illustrations of demons and angels and all the mythology.
This would have been the one that was to star Bradley Cooper, yes?
Yeah, Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when that
I will
died,
say that
'cause-
we lost out. Humanity
yeah,
lost out by that not happening.
it did. It would have been phenomenal. I was doing like the designs, the map painting, God, everything. But when that died, I was still so in that mentality of this demon and hell region. I thought, okay, what should I do next? What if I really thought what would suit my skills and what am I passionate about? And I'm thinking, well, Hellraiser. I love Hellraiser. I'm a bit obsessed with that. So I thought, okay, what if I were to reinvent that myself, just the character to start with, and see where it end up? And it kind of evolved from the character to, like I said, the pitch and the whole world. So that then the goal was, okay, then if somebody's going to make the film, it shouldn't be just open the box, death, repeat, death, open the box, repeat. How could you do it so that you make it into a more of a sandbox and to completely blow open, the universe? So that was the goal. And I probably I did go way too far, way over the top. If I'd just done open the box, death, it might have actually got somewhere. So the goal was to do like a 2-minute trailer and to accompany all the artwork. That's what I set out to do.
Awesome, yeah, and the finished result, it was extremely interesting. I believe you still can find it on YouTube for anyone that's interested. So go look for that. Not right now in this moment, but right after we finish. Then go check out the Hellraiser Origins.
Yeah, it was all
short.
about it was all about storytelling within the design. So the design of the character itself could tell a story. So the ribs on the side would be ribs of a fallen angel. The positioning of the scars would be frequency tuning forks. So everything from head to toe, if you looked into it and layered, it would all tell the story. All combined. But unfortunately, how it ended was quite tragic. I was a massive fan of Clive Barker, as you can, I guess, still am. The goal for Hellraiser was to make it go viral and hit all the press. And a week before it was due to be launched, I had all the press lined up to really push it. And then Clive Barker announced that he was going to come back out of retirement and do his own version of Hellraiser, which we later found out was a fabrication. But that piece of news just killed Hellraiser Origins dead. All the press dropped it. It was like, well, what's the point of running with this, fan pitch if Hellraiser's come back to Clive Barker?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's what happened.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if that was one of the things that Dimension did, because Dimension at the time were the ones that held the license for Hellraiser, and they
did, yeah.
they did, yeah, because they're not the ultimate rights owner, but they were the ones that had the Hellraiser movie rights indefinitely, and Clive Barker, he had nothing to do with them. But of course, if they cut a check, they could have him come aboard as a producer in name only.
But still, for for one guy in the north, out his little studio, it was still good to do. It still gets it's talked about now, so it was worth doing.
Yeah. And Mark C says, if he's still going to be He-Man, here is $5 to buy Noah Centineo as sandwich. Yeah, you could need that.
It'll be more than a sandwich.
That's going to be quite steroid-laced sandwich to make any difference. And to those whose those references are lost on, Noah Centineo is the one who is still officially in line to play He-Man, no longer in the Sony movie, but on Netflix, where the project is currently going nowhere fast because it's an absolute COVID standstill. And Fat Steven Seagal beat up Pedro some more, says, wishing good health and success to everyone here. Be good with that.
Well, the thing is, the way I see the Master Universe thing is, when they make that film, and eventually they'll make it for the version of me when I was like 14, 15. They won't make it for the version of me now. It won't make it for people who are in the late 30s, 40s who grew up with it. And so my goal was for the designs and for Rivals is to make that sentimentality for now, not for the preteen, to make it a kind of a really R-rated brutal version, so we can appreciate that now.
Exactly. I agree. Like, the thing is to realize is that the He-Man fan base are now in their 40s. So so that's like a thing to keep in mind. Now, I think that I'm actually more excited about the animated revival, He-Man Revelations, than I am the live action series. Also, that thing is going to happen. Something I question. Whether or not the live action He-Man project will do, for the very simple reason that it's just too expensive. It's designed to be a big budget blockbuster, and as one studio after the other is about to find out, the era of the big budget blockbuster is over for the foreseeable future. We've had many examples of this. Of course, you had Tenet, that was the canary in the coal mine, and that canary choked and it died. That sent a very powerful signal to Hollywood that now is the time to push everything back indefinitely. But of course they can't, because they have bills to pay. And as we learned in the case of the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die, the studio has to now pay $1 million per month extra, that it's not in release, just an extra interest and stuff like that for the investors, because these movies are paid with external financing, and the financiers, they want their money back with interest. So that's going to be a problem for everyone that has a Dune, or that has a Ghostbusters, or that has a Mission Impossible, or anything to release. But what this does is that it leaves an opening in the marketplace for smaller filmmakers, or maybe even unestablished filmmakers, that right now can make the kind of movies that they want, that we as audiences want. And when I say we, I mean certainly in this case, people like us that grew up with He-Man, that like us some Clive Barker, that like us some Giger, that like us some Mad Max, and that aren't really being catered to by the mainstream anyway. And just like with Comicsgate, where you have self-funded comics or crowd-funded comics that are comics that the audience actually wants, I believe that we're going to see more and more of this on the big screen as well, or certainly on the small screen, maybe more accurate. And that is kind of what you're doing. Let's move into Rivals. What can you tell us about that?
Well, you mentioned it yourself in that films are penalized because of the profit margins and the business behind it. So, you couldn't make Rivals through normal channels, because they would just subdue it to a teen audience, and they just dumb it all down. And the same and the problem with indie horror as well is that it's the same. There's a certain business platform, and you can't get your movie made unless it's a certain formula, or it has an actor in that is a commodity. So crowdfunding is the way to go if you want totally uncensored, straight from the director's mind straight onto the screen. If you want to go that way and be as creative as possible, I think crowdfunding is the way to go. It just cuts out all the middlemen and cuts out all the rubbish. So that's what I'm doing with Rivals. It's a little bit of a homage and a throwback to the way you used to see films in the 80s, in the imagination was key, and they just made anything. It was just crazy. It was great. It was just constant, this post-apocalyptic fantasy stuff was just reamed out, so it's a bit of a homage going back to that, but done in a with the respect to the genre.
Absolutely. Because to talk about your project and Rivals, I'm going to throw a link up on the screen here momentarily, for as soon as I can sort out the at the tech ethics. Tom had something that he had to deal with in his end. So apologies.
I'm not
for
finding
that.
the Rivals thing you said. I got Where's that at here?
Oh, okay, yeah, it's coming to you. But just throw the link from the description on screen, and I'll send you some more stuff that we can talk about. Because then
yeah. So if you imagine mixing like Mad Max with Conan the Barbarian, with a kind of slice of Geiger and Barker in there, and, it's totally R-rated and it's totally uncensored. That's what
Okay, I
Rivals
found
is
it.
all
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, because that is what this project Rivals is. It's basically Conan the Barbarian meets He-Man meets Mad Max.
Yeah, all wrapped around in my head and then just pumped out and reimagined.
Yeah. And one thing that I think is kind of cool about this is that, as those that watch Midnight's Edge will know, the very first Conan movie was written with a cool twist, namely that the whole thing was supposed to take place not in the distant past, but in the distant future. Of course, that never made it to the final screen in the end, but still, that was kind of like the take that this is Conan in the age of Mad Max. That was Oliver Stone's original intention, and that seems to be what you are doing here. So then I just wonder, is that something that was deliberate? Did you take inspiration from that? Or was it something else that went into
it was
decision?
more I wanted to do my own world. I knew of that story and I knew of like some of the theories behind He-Man as well, but I wanted to do my own thing, my own IP. But I was keen to mix medieval and cyberpunk. I think the two go well, together, and it's just a way of trying to create a world where that exists. So the way I saw it was you had this really futuristic world with this really ornate, almost alien-esque tech that gets wiped out, and the world resets to medieval, and you've got these different factions that kind of maybe the old tech is bleeding through, or maybe some of the tech has been reborn, but people still holding on to this kind of like almost brutal Roman Spartacus era as well.
And here now on screen we have some artwork or concept art from Rivals, which is the project that you are working on. What can you tell us about this character we're seeing right here?
She's the Hellbreeder. So there's a character called Placenta Boy. The story is, one of the chapters is that so the Hellbreeder and the Walking Mandala, so imagine two demons come together to give birth to the Demon King. But after the Demon King is born, the afterbirth, the placenta, slithers off and grows up to be another creature called the Placenta Boy. And it's his story and how he comes to power. So yeah, he's a creature made from the afterbirth of a Demon King. And that's the mother.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's byproducts are not always a welcome thing, whether we're dealing with nuclear power or or
demons,
fantasy or demons or anything. Mr. Tickletrunk, he said, "I'm actually one welcoming the return to good storytelling film instead of CGI vomit. Sadly, mid-budget movies may also be scarce in the near future." Yeah, we'll get back into that. Now, this character right here, to me, is very compelling. What are we looking at here? Now, this is some awesome design.
At an ancient droid. One of the last of the ancient droids, and he's been updated by Caillou. So all the spikes have been added later. So he's kind of like, if you remember the ABC Warriors from Judge Dredd, he has that vibe about him. So he's a protector and almost like a savage dog as well.
Yeah, so he's kind of like the ABC Warrior in Stallone's Judge Dredd, for those not familiar with the comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like Hammerstein,
kind of like
those familiar with comics.
He's a bit of a gimp toy to one of the other characters.
Yeah, he certainly looks absolutely terrifying. So this project then, Rivals. There's one question that I have, because this obviously is going to be crowdfunded. It's written by you. It will be directed by you. It will star a cast of mostly professionals. And of course, some people that are prize donors or contributors to the funding, of course, may also find themselves on screen. But a question that many will have is in terms of special effects, because this looks absolutely fantastic on the page where we see it right now, and the same with the character we're seeing right here. But how will the process of turning these into live action on a budget go? How is it going to look like? Is it going to look like you kind of like would expect from something like, say, 300, or is it going to look more like the sword and sorcery movies that wasn't Conan the Barbarian of the 80s?
It's going to look like a slice from the last Blade Runner film or a Dune film, but on a small, obviously 8 minutes to 10 minutes. It's just about planning. It's about using practical effects and practical costumes, but planning it down to a T. That's what the first Kickstarter is about, is pure pre-production. Because I've been down the route of indie horror, independent filmmaking, and no matter how passionate you are, because you're almost fighting time and money constantly, a lot of your creativity is lost because you haven't planned enough, and the budget just doesn't work if you haven't got the crew. So something like this, where it's not an hour, it's only 8 minutes, and you plan it to death, and you can go all out with every single scene, and you can craft it beyond belief, and that is the plan. And the most important thing is you capture as much of it as you can on camera, and not rely on we'll fix it in post or visual effects. So there'll be no CG blood at all. Everything will be as practical as we can.
Exactly. So we're talking squibs then, and explosions.
Lots of squibs.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, if you make film, if films like this were made in the 80s, and you haven't got the technology you have now, why can't you make it now? There's no reason why not. You don't need like a massive CG screen for every single thing.
Absolutely. And Win Some Hacks says, I missed the name of this planned film. Rivals. That would be Rivals. And if you look at the check into the description of this video, there you're going to find a link to the Indiegogo, because this is a crowdfunded project. And oh, look at this. Perfect. This is exactly what I was going to say. Kithamer says, looks amazing. Just pledged £30.
Fantastic.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Because here, what this is basically Comicsgate film version. This is exactly the kind of project that I have wanted for years, ever since Fire and Ice was first announced in development back in 2003 or something, and we're still waiting nearly 2 decades later. Hollywood never got around to doing it.
It's the same with me. It's when it comes to a film, I thought, do I go down the route of developing a film again, or do I do this? If I develop a film, it could take 2 to 3 to 4 years at least, but doing this, I could do it, within maybe 6 months. I can get the first episode done, and it's partly crowdfunding, yes, but I'll also be using episode 1 to push to more financiers and investors, so I can get the rest of it done as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
You can have more fun that way. You really go all out that way.
Yeah, because just so we all understand, because the thing here that this Rivals, in the end, it's going to be feature length, so about 1.5 to 2 hours. But the way that is that right understood, or a misunderstanding? And then you are
I guess so 10 episodes. 10 episodes, 10 to 15 minutes each, so it will end up about that. But they're not. You can watch them. You don't have to watch them in chronological order. They can be standalone episodes on their own as well. Yeah, and they'll say half of them will be live action and half will be animated as well.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be very interesting to see the mix of that there. And That's also a thing to keep in mind here, that this is something that is absolutely free of corporate interference. There will be no
Exactly.
requirement that
Exactly.
this has to
Yeah.
go woke or
Hmm.
anything. Here you
Hmm.
can do
Hmm.
exactly what we all want and go as brutal as we all want it to be.
Yeah.
Now
There'll be
I'm
no
also
demographics.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also curious if this thing here turns out to be a hit. What possibilities are in the future?
I would love to do more seasons, definitely, and maybe even take a couple of the characters and expand beyond the 10 to 15 minute, mark. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the designs here are very very cool, and the idea is, I believe, is to create a lived-in world, which
Hmm.
has the door open for many
Yeah.
many more adventures. Should opportunity permit. So I'm
Hmm.
going to throw up the link for the Indiegogo in the chat right now. It's already in the description of the video. But I'm going to throw it in the chat as well. Just give me a second here. Let's see.
I've been sharing it
Here,
periodically throughout here, so
yeah, brilliant.
I've
And
got to say as well, when it comes to the cast, because a lot of it is martial arts, and when it comes to the cast, I intend to hire real martial artists, a martial artist who there's a few people I've got my eye on, which I won't name yet, but who are huge in the late 80s, who, they're not just trained for movies, they are phenomenal martial artists in their own right. So hopefully my plan is to bring them on board and allow them to almost direct the fight as well. So we have Hong Kong style fighting scenes. They're not, you're not your quick cut movie rubbish. It's gone old school.
Rob will enjoy that because there's karate in it. That's our other co-host here. Now, if you guys wanted us to, we can show this trailer real quick.
yeah, absolutely. If as long as we're not going to get a copyright strike from you, Paul, I'm very happy to show the trailer.
Shouldn't do. Yeah. Well, the first montage is just a montage of films that I enjoyed that I have the same vibe.
Yeah. I'll go on, Tom, roll trailer.
Probably get more trouble for the song than these.
I got right for the song, nothing else.
I was going to say,
Then it's just
Those
me blathering
are,
on for too long.
Yeah.
all right, there you
Those
go.
are well, it's a very good company.
All right.
Yeah, and
I've got to
before
say
we move
real
on,
quick,
yeah,
very close. I would say 99% sure that Vun and Wells will be in Rivals as well. Chatting to him yesterday, and yeah, we're almost got a deal going, so we're close. He would play Mabo.
awesome. That's very cool. Very, very cool indeed. And we had a super chat from Silver Nola, who says there is an absolute gold mine of money to be made by independent creators who have the courage to fill the void created by woke movies of late. He-Man,
Yeah.
Conan, the list goes on. Yes, exactly. And that's why we are here and exactly what we are talking about. And this is exactly the time of the kind of project that you can help out with and show Hollywood how it's done. Or to quote Klaatu Barada Nikto, great reference right there in the chat, our time has come. It has indeed. I believe that this can be something of a watershed moment. Because if we just go back and look at the comics for a moment, because I think the parallel is so astounding. The professional comic book industry has been largely infused by politics that probably is there from the best of intentions, but it's not what the audience wants, and it's not what they
Mm.
pay for with their entertainment. And that is what basically gave the rise to Comic Gate, where creators go out and they create their own titles, which are funded directly by the audience. That way, you get exactly the kind of product that you want, that has exactly the right entertainment value that you are looking for. Now, that is something that has changed the landscape of comics forever. And yeah, like as it is right now, I think that the crowdfunded comics are far bigger than really any of the officially published comics. And I think that this happening to movies is the only natural next step,
Mhm.
because the
Yeah.
comic book industry has been a couple of years ahead of the film industry in many, many regards. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
Mhm.
So, everyone, this is your opportunity to help support what could be a watershed moment for the industry. We're not going to get any kind of movies that we like, and if anyone thought that Hollywood is going to go less woke with someone else in the White House, you're dreaming. It's going to get a million
Yeah.
times worse now. So if there ever was a time to support independent productions that actually create the kind of product that we want, this is it. And I think that Rivals looks like a very, very promising start to that end.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So
I think a lot of
yeah,
people are feeling the same way about Hollywood. I mean, I have a few contacts who, did like effects and stuff for like Avatar and things like that, who are kind of like top of the game, but they've had enough. They've had enough of the politics, and they're shifting over to like indie stuff. We're talking about people who, worked on $200 million movies are now doing pure indie because it's going back to what was fun and the total freedom.
exactly, indeed. And even things made for streaming aren't safe. Mills, good
Mm.
contributor to the channel, says, uh, in the world of breaking news, WandaVision delayed to 2021. Does anyone care at this point, is what I wonder. I think most people probably are behind or are done with Marvel at this point. So, yeah.
Yeah, no
It's
spandex
delayed.
in Rivals.
Yeah, no, no spandex in Rival and no
No
wokeness
spandex.
either.
No, that's it.
Instead, you'll be getting things like that. What can you tell us of the character we're seeing on screen right now? I
So
don't want to
yeah,
spoil too much, but who's this?
yeah, because it sometimes it does tie into the later episode. So Caillou, she is kind of a bit of a wildcat, I suppose, and she controls the droid. She's the kind of the keeper of Sapaku, who's the 7 foot war droid. And
Yeah, she's the
she is, how can I put it? She's kind of not a vampire, but she can take energy from people and give it to Mabel. So it all ties into the later episodes. So I don't want to give too much away yet until episode 1 is kind of finished. But yeah, she's a fun character. See, in Rivals, there's no good or evil. There's no antagonist or protagonist because it keeps flipping them back and forward. So you never really know who is the most brutal evil character, because 1 minute you think, oh, she's twisted, and then you'll see her backstory and think, well, that's why she's twisted. Maybe she's not as evil as you think. And go back and forth.
excellent. So that sounds very, very cool. And here we have another awesome character. What can you tell us about this one?
So this is Mabel, and he is probably, I thought, 1,000 years old. So his body is held together by like biomechanics and dark cult magic, and the face that's actually part of the helmet. So that face is like an effigy, and that will come off in like the first scene. So he'll kind of peel that off. It'll then stick to his chest, and then, like I said, fingers crossed that'll be Vernon Wells under there if everything goes well.
Oh, that would be awesome to have Vernon Wells in there. We actually have we hope to have Vernon Wells on one of these days. We have some mutual acquaintances with him, so
Yeah.
that would be very cool. Of course, Vernon Wells, he is the most badass character, one of the most badass characters in the entire
that
Mad
voice.
Max series.
Yeah.
And also he's famous for being one of the most mismatched opponents against Arnold Schwarzenegger ever. But he's still a really cool guy. So yeah. And again, here is the link to the Indiegogo campaign, because this project, it has infinite potential, but it needs your help in happening. John Willis says, "Sounds like Gilgamesh." Are you familiar with the epic of Gilgamesh? And will you have some of that classic hero's journey storytelling in here?
I'm afraid to say I have no idea what that is. No,
okay, and Epic of Gilgamesh is the first known story and the first example of the hero's journey. So if it has the hero's journey in it, then it's going to have some, if not explicit, then at least implicit Epic of Gilgamesh connotations in it, which is awesome. And Mr. Tickletrunk sends $5 saying, I only back things that get into trouble with journalists in the news media. Just got Art Combo 1. This is exciting. So another backer. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. And it will, I think it's will get in trouble. Why not? That's what art's all about, isn't it? To get in trouble.
Well, if it's good art, it's in trouble. Like if it's not a little bit problematic, then what's the point with it? Then you're not pushing any kind of boundaries.
There's no point. I've said this before. Everything is a formula these days. Why would you spend your time and energy and money creating something that's been done before? I see no point to that. Doing the same thing over and over again. So many independent horror films, they're just the same thing, retread. I mean, if you have the cameras, you have the cast and the crew and the writers, do something different, or try and do something different.
Indeed, absolutely. And again, here is the link to the campaign. Mr. Trickletrunk also says, Vernon Wells is so badass. He made feathers look epic.
He did, yeah. Shoulder feathers, yeah. He wore them well.
He did indeed, and exposed butt cheeks. He did a good pitch for those as well.
That would be funny. That would be funny if I got him on set and said, "Look, you need to expose your cheeks again."
Yeah,
just for continuous.
Yeah. And another comment that illustrates our perfectly from John Willis, who says, originality is dead in Hollywood. The investors all want a sure thing. Indeed, when you try to please everyone, then you end up pleasing no one. So it's
what will happen is what normally happens is that somebody will make something. If it's not me, it was somebody else. That breaks the mold, and then all of Hollywood will jump on it and think, well, that's what makes money now, and you'll get a lot more of that. And that's been happening in history for decades. Same with like Wolverine. When Wolverine did the straight dark version, then you had a whole stream of dark Marvels. Then it looped again. But you got to break that mold, and it's hard. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, do you have a final pitch for Rivals?
I think, I think it's one of the crowdfunders that really give people an insight, because there's, the art book will be full of the behind the scenes stuff and the artwork. And if you're in the UK, then you could be a set visit, or you can be one of the characters and just get covered in blood and armor and just get totally messed up. It's about getting people involved and more than just chipping in. It's I want them to be part of it, if you know what I mean. It's and understand the whole process. That's what I love about Blu-rays, seeing all the behind the scenes stuff and getting to know it all. That's what the crowdfunding is about.
Absolutely. So everyone go have a look at the Indiegogo page and read about the different tiers and what kind of support you're willing to give. But basically here you can get art books, you can get the Blu-ray, and you can even get an appearance in the movie. So that's the beauty with crowdfunding, and the fans, especially skilled fans who also happen to be industry professionals, because one does not have to rule out
Mhm.
the other.
Mhm.
We can
Yeah.
get high-end product like this. And
You can.
Luffy is God says, Fan the Menace is Conan and the Vanir at the Black River, and SJWs are the Picts. Now that's a Conan reference. It is indeed.
Mm.
It's indeed a Conan reference. And Mr. Tickled Frank says, I really hope Paul Gerrard gets more exposure. This stuff is important. I agree. This stuff
Mm.
is important. And that is why we are hosting this show, because I fully believe this is important. This is the future of not all filmmaking, but of the kind of filmmaking that will appeal to the audience that is attracted to things like Conan, Star Wars, Star Trek, all of those things that
Mhm.
have been taken away.
Yeah.
Rivals is
Yeah.
a project that is the natural response to that, and I think it's important that that fans actually take responsibility and put their wallets where their mouth is, and actually support something that is made from the right intention. As Film Lars says, more blood and insanity now. Yes, that's exactly what we
Yeah.
need.
That's a good tagline. I like that one.
Yeah.
Might use that. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a very, very good tagline, and it illustrates perfectly exactly what is needed in our entertainment and escapism, and not necessarily what we are getting from the Hollywood
Yeah.
studio system.
The Japanese get it. The Japanese film market is, the hardcore horror Japanese film market is like straight from your imagination, straight onto the screen, no filter whatsoever. And violence in the culture is not portrayed in the same way as violence is portrayed in like America or the UK. Violence is an imaginative, expressive form. And this is why you have all those brilliant films like Fish and North Star and all the the R-rated anime, because they love that. Right? It's part of their culture. So there's a big influence of Japanese anime in Rivals, I think, most definitely.
Absolutely. Only going to show how the Japanese have got their shit together right there. If you look in the world of comics, American and Western comics are failing big time. But the manga, that's still selling like hotcakes, because there they do things for the love of the craft. And that's what this is. Alpha J 330 says, would love to get an art book. Well, just read the description in the Indiegogo, support the project, and get yourself an art book. Do a service to the future of filmmaking and get something awesome in return for yourself. That's also something really cool with the fan funding. It's not just taking your money; it's giving something back, which is pretty awesome. All right. With that, I do believe that we have gone through most of what we needed to cover. So everyone, go check out Rivals on Indiegogo. Paul, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. We wish you the absolute best of luck with Rivals. It's a project that we will continue to follow, and we will of course continue to back, because again, if you're in the fandom menace or in any kind of way identify with the goals and values, which is simply that entertainment should be just that, entertainment, and not politicized for a gain that is ruining the entertainment industry. If that is what you feel like, then this is the project for you, and this is how you can show the Hollywood where we stand. So I absolutely encourage everyone to at least read what it's all about and then seriously consider giving your support.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. And hopefully, fingers crossed, yeah, we get a whole season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Paul, thanks for joining us. Tom, any final words for the audience out there?
No, I just apologize for being so quiet today, dealing with a bunch of stuff around the new house. So, again, sorry for everybody, and sorry to our guest. I do look. It does look like this is a pretty neat project, and I do implore people to head on over there and support it, because otherwise, we won't get such new entertainment, or non-corporate entertainment is the better way of putting it.
Absolutely. Midnight's Edge will support it, and we will continue to keep you updated on Rivals. With that, everyone, thank you for joining us today, and be sure to catch us back on Wednesday. You will find this video once we unlist it, which is going to be very soon. You can find this as well as all other live shows in the playlists. And this one you will be able to find in the Midnight's Edge in the Morning playlist. Of course, if you have the link, it'll take you right through it. And with that, thanks for joining us, and have a great morning, afternoon, and day. Bye.
Don't forget Toxic Femininity tonight.
And yes, check out Toxic Femininity.